What comes to mind when you think of Washington State? Maybe it is the emerald green forests, the snow-capped peaks of Mount Rainier, or the glittering skyline of Seattle with its famous Space Needle. For decades, Washington has been painted as one of America's most desirable places to live, attracting young professionals, families, and retirees who wanted a taste of Pacific Northwest charm. But beneath the postcard perfect image, something strange has been happening. People are leaving, and they are leaving in big numbers. The very state that once symbolized opportunity and adventure is now struggling to hold on to its residents. On the surface, this feels like a mystery. How could a state with so much natural beauty, booming industries, and a reputation for progressive living suddenly become a place so many people want to escape? It almost feels like a plot twist in a movie. You move somewhere expecting coffee shop culture, mountain hikes, and innovation around every corner, only to discover hidden costs, unsettling risks, and daily frustrations that chip away at your quality of life. It is a bit like buying a dream car only to realize later that the maintenance bills are sky high and it constantly breaks down when you need it most. Washington's decline in desirability is not because of one single factor. Instead, it is the stacking of many small and large challenges that together create an overwhelming picture. The endless rain and gray skies may drain your mood. The looming threat of a massive earthquake could keep you up at night. The daily grind of traffic might make you question whether your time is being stolen. Add in soaring housing costs, new payroll taxes, wildfire smoke, and a struggling job market, and suddenly the glossy brochure version of Washington does not match the lived reality. What makes this story even more fascinating is where people are going instead. Cities like Boise, Phoenix, Portland, and Bend are seeing steady streams of Washington-out migrants, each searching for relief from the burdens that life in the Evergreen State has piled on. They are chasing sunshine, affordability, stability, and a sense of peace that Washington no longer seems able to provide. So what exactly went wrong? How did a state once viewed as the crown jewel of the Pacific Northwest become a place so many want to leave behind? Stick around as we count down the 10 biggest reasons why people say they no longer want to live in Washington. Some of these will surprise you, and others might make you wonder if you would pack up and leave too. Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into our next topics. Also, let us know what city you're from and if we should make a video about it. Now let's jump right in. 10. Gray, rainy weather, and low winter light. When people imagine the Pacific Northwest, the first images that come to mind are towering evergreens, misty mountains, and coffee shops on every corner. But ask anyone who has spent more than a few months in Washington, and they will tell you about the rain. The state, and particularly the Seattle area, experiences about 150 days each year with measurable rainfall. That means nearly half the calendar year is filled with drizzle, showers, and dark skies. Add to that the long winter nights and very short days, where the sun can set before 5 in the evening, and it starts to take a toll on mental health. Seasonal affective disorder, often linked to lack of sunlight, is more common in Washington than in most parts of the country. Many residents find themselves investing in light therapy lamps or planning winter getaways just to cope. The constant gray has become such a defining trait of the region that people joke about learning to tell the difference between 50 shades of clouds. But over time, that joke loses its humor when you realize the sky will look the same tomorrow and the day after that. This lack of sunshine is one of the major drivers for why people are leaving Washington. While the state offers incredible outdoor activities during the rare clear days, residents often find themselves looking longingly at sunnier states. Phoenix, for instance, sees over 300 days of sunshine each year, and Bend, Oregon, also offers a much drier climate compared to Seattle. The numbers paint a clear picture. People are trading Washington's 150 rainy days for Arizona's nearly endless sunshine. And it is not just retirees who crave brighter weather. Young professionals and families often cite mental health and lifestyle quality as their reasons for heading south. Sunshine means more opportunities to be outdoors, more active lifestyles, and, quite simply, better moods. When people calculate where they want to spend the next chapter of their lives, many decide that the gray skies of Washington are not worth enduring forever. So while the mountains and coastlines are undeniably beautiful, the never-ending drizzle is a major factor pushing people away. Weather might seem like a small thing on paper, but when half your year is spent under clouds, it becomes one of the biggest reasons nobody wants to live in Washington. 9. Major earthquake and coastal hazard risk. Living in Washington comes with a hidden danger that many residents try not to think about, but the risk is always there. The state sits on the Cascadia subduction zone, one of the most dangerous fault lines in the world. According to the United States Geological Survey, there is roughly a 10 to 15% chance of a magnitude 9 earthquake hitting within the next 50 years. To put that into perspective, such a quake would release as much energy as several thousand Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs, shaking the Pacific Northwest for minutes rather than seconds. Entire coastal towns could face devastation, and cities like Seattle and Olympia would experience severe structural damage. This looming threat is not science fiction. Historical records and geological evidence show that a massive Cascadia quake occurred in the year 1601, and experts warn that the region is overdue for the next one. Add in the fact that Seattle sits atop multiple smaller faults, capable of magnitude 6.5 or greater earthquakes, and the risk becomes an everyday reality. Unlike California, where earthquakes are frequent and often minor, Washington's risk is more catastrophic in nature. It is not the occasional tremor, but the possibility of one enormous event that could change the region overnight. For many families, this is a deal breaker. Emergency preparedness agencies regularly warn residents to keep 2 weeks of supplies at home because infrastructure could be cut off for days or even weeks after such an event. Bridges, highways, and utilities in Washington are not fully designed to withstand this scale of disaster, which leaves people wondering why they should gamble with their safety. It is no surprise then that many Washington residents look elsewhere for more peace of mind. Boise, Idaho is often cited as a popular destination for those leaving the Seattle area. Boise offers a lower seismic risk and more stable ground, while still providing access to the outdoors that Pacific Northwesterners love. Phoenix also draws movers who want to escape not only the rainy weather, but also the earthquake threat. Even Portland, just across the state border, becomes attractive, though it shares part of the seismic zone. When weighing the decision of where to settle long-term, many people simply do not want to live under the constant shadow of the big one. The potential devastation is too great, and with so many safer alternatives available, families and retirees are increasingly choosing to move away. The natural beauty of Washington cannot erase the reality of its earthquake risks, and that is why this danger ranks so high on the list of reasons nobody wants to live here. If you think this is reason enough, wait till you hear about reason number 1. It will surprise you. 8. Wildfire smoke and air quality alerts. Another major reason people are leaving Washington is the growing problem of wildfires and the smoke that comes with them. In the past decade, wildfire season has gone from being a rare event to an almost annual crisis. Every late summer and early fall, thick blankets of smoke drift over Washington's largest cities, including Seattle, Spokane, and Tacoma. The state now spends dozens of days each year under air quality alerts, with the air index often hitting unhealthy levels. For families with young children, seniors, or anyone with asthma and respiratory conditions, these conditions are more than inconvenient, they are dangerous. The numbers are alarming. According to state environmental reports, Washingtonians in the Puget Sound region have endured multiple weeks in recent years where air quality was worse than Los Angeles, a city once infamous for smog. In September of 2020, Seattle recorded some of the worst air quality on the planet during the West Coast wildfire crisis, with AQI readings soaring above 200. These are levels where simply stepping outside for a walk is considered hazardous to your health. Even in 2024 and 2025, the trend has not improved, with late summer skies regularly filled with orange haze and the smell of burning forests. This constant exposure has changed how people view life in the Evergreen State. Outdoor recreation, one of Washington's strongest draws, becomes impossible when smoke lingers for weeks at a time. Hiking trails close, campsites empty, and kids are kept inside during what should be the best months of the year. Residents who once praised the natural beauty of the Pacific Northwest now find themselves locked indoors, running air purifiers and checking AQI apps before deciding if it is safe to breathe outside air. Many who have had enough of this choose to relocate to areas where wildfire smoke is less of a persistent issue. Boise, Idaho has become a common destination because it offers drier weather but fewer extreme smoke events compared to Seattle. Others look at coastal locations like Portland or even California's Central Coast, where ocean winds can help clear the air. Some Washington movers are even heading to Arizona, trading smoke for heat but enjoying skies that remain clear year-round. The reality is that wildfire season is no longer an exception in Washington. It has become the norm. For families who want to enjoy clean air, raise kids outdoors, and spend their summers hiking or biking without worrying about smoke, Washington increasingly fails to deliver. This environmental shift is a powerful reason why more and more people are deciding that the Evergreen State is not the right place to stay. 7. Time lost to traffic congestion. For many Washington residents, the breaking point comes not from the weather or natural disasters, but from the hours wasted in traffic. Seattle consistently ranks among the 10 most congested cities in the United States, with drivers losing an average of 63 hours a year stuck in delays. That is nearly 3 full days of sitting in a car, inching along I-5 or Highway 520, staring at brake lights. The commute that should take 20 minutes often doubles, and it leaves people drained before they even reach their workplace or return home to their families. What makes this worse is that the problem has been getting steadily more severe. In 2024, traffic delays increased by about 9% compared to the year before, and forecasts show little improvement on the horizon. Population growth in the Puget Sound region has outpaced infrastructure upgrades, and while billions have been invested in light rail and transit expansions, these projects are still years from full completion. Meanwhile, commuters continue to feel the daily grind, with buses delayed, ferries overbooked, and highways clogged during almost every daylight hour. This level of congestion has serious consequences for quality of life. Families find that weekday evenings are eaten up by traffic jams rather than dinners or activities. Stress levels rise as drivers face unpredictable travel times, which in turn impacts productivity and mental health. For retirees considering where to settle, the thought of battling long traffic backups just to reach a doctor's appointment or grocery store is simply unappealing. The numbers make this clear. Spending 60+ hours a year stuck in gridlock is not the retirement dream anyone envisions. It is no wonder then that many people are relocating to smaller, less congested areas. Bend, Oregon, has become an attractive option because it offers a slower pace of life and significantly less traffic. Boise, Idaho is another popular choice, combining affordability with easier commuting. Even within Washington, people are eyeing mid-sized towns like Wenatchee or Bellingham, where traffic is far less of a daily burden. When potential residents weigh the decision of staying in Washington, traffic is more than just an annoyance. It is a constant reminder that time, the most valuable resource, is slipping away on the freeway. With so many alternative cities offering smoother commutes and a more relaxed lifestyle, many conclude that the cost of living in Washington's gridlock simply is not worth paying anymore. 6. High cost of living, including fuel. Another powerful reason driving people out of Washington is the high cost of living. Compared to the national average, Washington's cost of living index sits roughly 9% higher. This gap shows up in every corner of daily life, from groceries to utilities, and especially at the gas pump. In 2025, the statewide average price of regular gasoline hovers around $4.40 per gallon, which is materially above the national average. For families with multiple cars or long commutes, these numbers quickly add up to hundreds of extra dollars each month. Housing expenses amplify the problem even further. Beyond home prices, which we will cover separately, the everyday costs of simply maintaining a lifestyle in Washington feel increasingly unsustainable. Electricity and natural gas bills are consistently higher than the U.S. average, while groceries, dining out, and healthcare continue to climb. This makes Washington one of the more expensive states to call home, even for people with relatively stable incomes. For retirees on fixed incomes, the squeeze is even harsher. Choosing where to stretch every retirement dollar becomes a critical decision, and Washington often does not come out on top. The fuel issue is particularly striking because it affects so many layers of the economy. When filling up a tank costs 20% more than the national baseline, it does not just hit households, it also raises the cost of goods transported by truck, which feeds into grocery prices and retail expenses. Residents feel this ripple effect every time they walk into a supermarket or order from an online retailer. What used to be small price differences have become noticeable burdens on middle-class families. As a result, many Washingtonians are seeking relief in states where their money simply goes further. Phoenix, Arizona is one of the most popular relocation choices, where housing and fuel costs can both be lower. Others move to Portland, Oregon, in hopes of slightly cheaper daily expenses while still remaining in the Pacific Northwest. Boise, Idaho, has also gained attention because it provides a mix of lower costs, outdoor access, and less financial stress compared to Seattle or Tacoma. The bottom line is that Washington has priced itself out of reach for many. When families are constantly making trade-offs between commuting, groceries, and healthcare costs, the appeal of greener pastures elsewhere becomes irresistible. The high cost of living, magnified by expensive fuel, is yet another major reason why fewer and fewer people want to stay in Washington. 5. Home prices remain a hurdle for buyers. Perhaps the most talked about reason for leaving Washington is the overwhelming cost of buying a home. The average home value in the state sits at about $596,000, a figure that dwarfs the national average by a wide margin. In Seattle and its surrounding suburbs, so-called starter homes often sell for more than $1 million. What was once a middle-class goal of owning a modest house with a yard has become unattainable for many, even for families with two steady incomes. This affordability crisis is not limited to the urban core. Communities across King County, Pierce County, and Snohomish County have all seen steady double-digit growth in housing prices over the past decade. Inventory remains tight, competition is fierce, and bidding wars are still common. For first-time buyers, the dream of homeownership often ends with the sobering realization that monthly mortgage payments could easily rival or exceed $3,000. Add property taxes, insurance, and utilities, and the total financial burden becomes overwhelming. Younger generations in particular feel locked out of the housing market. Many millennials and Gen Z residents are frustrated that despite working full-time jobs, they cannot compete with high-income tech workers or out-of-state investors who can pay cash. Retirees face a different but equally discouraging challenge. Those who sell their homes to downsize often discover that buying a smaller property in Washington still requires spending a significant chunk of their savings. Downsizing does not translate to saving money. It just means moving into a smaller space at nearly the same cost. The result is a steady outflow of residents seeking affordable housing markets elsewhere. Portland, Oregon remains a popular destination for Seattle out-migrants, offering lower home prices and similar cultural amenities. Phoenix, Arizona has also become a major draw because of its combination of sun, space, and more accessible homeownership opportunities. Even Boise, Idaho, and Bend, Oregon attract attention for their relative affordability compared to Washington's major metros, despite their own rising prices. At its core, the housing crisis reflects a simple truth. When a basic starter home costs close to $1 million, families will look elsewhere to build their lives. Washington's breathtaking views and thriving job market cannot make up for the fact that so many cannot afford to put down roots. For many who have weighed the options, the housing hurdle has become the breaking point, pushing them to leave in search of somewhere they can truly call home. 4. Rents that still run hot versus the nation. Even for those who are not ready to buy a home, Washington's rental market creates its own set of challenges that push people away. As of late 2025, the median rent in Seattle sits close to $1,995 per month. That number is significantly above the national median and reflects an overall trend across the state, from Tacoma to Spokane. For young professionals just starting out, students juggling part-time jobs, or families saving for a down payment, these rental costs eat up a massive portion of monthly income. The standard financial guidelines suggest that housing should take no more than 30% of one's income. In Washington, many renters find themselves spending closer to 40 or even 50% just to keep a roof over their heads. This leaves little room for savings, retirement contributions, or unexpected expenses. For retirees who want to rent during their golden years, the story is no better. A fixed income simply does not stretch far enough when rents are this high, forcing many older residents to look elsewhere for affordable options. And the problem is not just the dollar amount. Tight vacancy rates across Washington mean competition for apartments is fierce. Renters often find themselves in bidding wars, even for basic units, with landlords able to raise prices because demand consistently outstrips supply. Policies designed to cap or slow rent increases have not solved the fundamental problem, which is too many people competing for too few available spaces. When residents are renewing leases with annual rent hikes of several $100s, it becomes clear why frustration runs high. This environment has created a wave of outward migration. Many who leave Washington in search of affordable rent are turning to nearby alternatives. Portland, Oregon, attracts former Seattle renters because monthly payments can be hundreds of dollars cheaper. Smaller Washington towns such as Bellingham or Wenatchee are also gaining interest, offering lower costs while still keeping residents in the Pacific Northwest. Beyond the region, Boise, Idaho, and even Phoenix, Arizona, stand out as destinations where renters feel they can regain control of their budgets and quality of life. When rent eats up nearly half of your paycheck, it becomes impossible to plan for the future. People want to save, invest, and eventually buy, but Washington's rental market traps them in a cycle of high payments and limited mobility. That frustration is another powerful factor behind the steady stream of residents leaving the state in search of more affordable living conditions. 3. Homelessness and street disorder concerns. One of the most visible and troubling reasons people are leaving Washington is the rapid rise in homelessness and the street disorder that often accompanies it. In 2024, Washington recorded the third highest homeless population in the United States, with roughly 31,554 people experiencing homelessness. More than half of that total was concentrated in King County, home to Seattle. These numbers are staggering when you consider the size of the state's population, and they represent a problem that has proven incredibly difficult to manage. For residents, the issue goes far beyond statistics. Daily life in major cities like Seattle and Tacoma has been shaped by the growing number of encampments on sidewalks, under bridges, and in public parks. Families often say they no longer feel comfortable bringing their children to certain areas that were once community hubs. Business owners have raised concerns about rising crime and vandalism near encampments, while commuters describe walking past open drug use and discarded needles on their way to work. While compassion for those struggling with housing remains high, the lived reality of disorder has become a key driver of dissatisfaction among long-term residents. The costs associated with this crisis are equally daunting. Local governments have spent billions on programs to combat homelessness, yet the visible problem has not gone away. Taxpayers feel as though their money is being poured into solutions that fail to show measurable results, and frustration grows each year as the numbers remain high. The situation has led many residents to question whether Washington can ever get a handle on the crisis, or whether the problem has become too entrenched. This perception fuels outmigration. Families and retirees seeking peace of mind often look towards smaller Washington towns such as Bellingham, Wenatchee, or Port Angeles, where homelessness is less visible. Others decide to leave the state entirely, turning to Boise, Idaho, Bend, Oregon, or even Phoenix, Arizona, in search of communities that feel safer and more orderly. For many, it is not simply about the presence of homelessness, but the sense that city life in Washington has become increasingly unpredictable and stressful. The reality is stark. When residents no longer feel comfortable walking through their neighborhoods, taking their kids to a park, or visiting a downtown business, the quality of life erodes quickly. Homelessness and street disorder are not abstract policy debates, but daily experiences shaping the decisions of thousands of Washingtonians. For a growing number, the decision is to leave the state in search of stability elsewhere. 2. New payroll deductions and tax load perceptions. Washington is often praised for not having a state income tax, But many residents now feel that the financial benefits of living here are shrinking. In recent years, the state has introduced new payroll deductions that directly impact workers' take-home pay. One of the most significant changes is the WA Cares program, which requires a payroll tax of 0.58%. This deduction was designed to fund long-term care benefits, but for employees who may never see the payout, it feels like just another burden. On top of that, the Paid Family and Medical Leave program requires workers and employers to split a tax of nearly 0.92%, adding yet another reduction to paychecks. For an average worker earning $70,000 per year, these deductions amount to several $100s lost annually. While that may not sound crushing in isolation, it stacks on top of Washington's already higher cost of living, expensive gas, and pricey housing. Many residents feel as though they are constantly being asked to contribute more, even though the quality of services or relief they receive in return does not seem to improve. The psychological perception of creeping taxes plays a powerful role in driving people to reconsider where they live. Retirees are not immune to these concerns. While they do not face payroll deductions, they feel the impact through higher costs that ripple across the economy when employers pass on expenses. Rising consumer prices tied to state programs often leave retirees on fixed incomes with fewer options. For younger families, the issue is even more pressing. They see deductions coming out of every paycheck, mortgage and rent swallowing most of their income, and fuel costs eating away at the rest. The promise of no state income tax no longer feels like a strong enough reason to remain in Washington. This is why many Washingtonians look to places like Idaho or Arizona, where the overall tax burden feels lighter. Boise in particular is a top destination because it offers lower housing costs, fewer payroll deductions, and an easier financial path for families and individuals trying to save. Phoenix is also attractive, with many residents trading Washington's deductions and higher costs for sunshine and a perception of financial freedom. The reality is simple. People want to keep more of what they earn, and when Washington continues to add new payroll programs, it chips away at that freedom. Over time, even small percentages add up to big frustrations. For many residents, this perception of growing taxes is a major reason they pack up and leave. 1. Job market cooling and tech volatility. For decades, Washington's economy has been fueled by the strength of its tech industry. Seattle became synonymous with innovation, hosting giants like Microsoft, Amazon, and a growing ecosystem of startups. This reputation drew tens of thousands of workers from across the country who wanted to build careers in one of the most dynamic job markets in America. But in recent years, that image has started to change. The tech sector has faced waves of layoffs, hiring freezes, and uncertainty. What once felt like a safe bet now feels more like a gamble. In mid-2025, Washington's unemployment rate hovered around 4.5%, higher than it had been in previous years. While this may not seem catastrophic, it reflects a broader slowdown in hiring, particularly in industries that once defined the region's economy. Tech volatility is at the heart of the problem. Thousands of workers have been laid off in just the past 2 years, and while some have managed to find new roles, many others are left struggling in a highly competitive job market. Even for those still employed, the constant threat of layoffs has chipped away at morale and stability. For families building long-term plans, uncertainty in the job market is especially unsettling. Young professionals who once flocked to Washington for opportunity are now looking elsewhere, seeking regions with more diversified economies. Retirees who may not depend on jobs directly still feel the impact through declining property values, unstable tax bases, and a sense that the once thriving economy is not as bulletproof as it seemed. When a state's primary economic engine falters, everyone feels the effects. This has led to a noticeable pattern in migration data. Outbound searches from Seattle often target cities like Portland, Phoenix, Boise, and Bend. These destinations are attractive not just for affordability or lifestyle perks, but also because they feel less dependent on one industry. Boise, for example, offers a balance of tech and manufacturing, while Phoenix has a growing financial and healthcare sector. People are drawn to places where they feel their careers and their futures are less at risk of being upended by the next wave of corporate restructuring. The harsh truth is that Washington's once unshakable reputation for opportunity has started to crack. When the economy loses momentum and job security becomes questionable, it is hard to convince people to stay, especially when they can find stability elsewhere. For many, the combination of high costs and uncertain employment is the final straw, making job market volatility the #1 reason why fewer people want to live in Washington. So, after digging through the layers of Washington's reality, we can finally see the picture that residents have been painting with their moving trucks and search engine clicks. It is not just one problem that drives people away, it is the combination of many. Gray skies that feel endless, wildfires that choke the air, traffic that steals days of your life, and housing prices that crush your savings. Add in payroll deductions that shrink your paycheck, a visible homelessness crisis that reshapes daily life, and an economy that is no longer as bulletproof as it once seemed, and you begin to understand why people are saying, enough is enough. What makes Washington's story so striking is the gap between perception and reality. From the outside, the state still sells itself as the land of coffee culture, scenic hikes, and innovation. But on the inside, many residents feel weighed down by the constant trade-offs: higher bills, greater risks, fewer opportunities, and less joy in everyday life. It is like living in a beautiful house with a leaky roof. Eventually, the charm wears off, and all you notice are the buckets catching rainwater. And the truth is, people do not just complain about these issues, they act on them. Redfin's search data and moving statistics show that the most popular destinations for Washington's outbound residents are places like Boise, Phoenix, Portland, and Bend. Each of these cities offers its own version of relief. Whether it is lower costs, more sunshine, or simply a calmer pace of life, residents are not chasing luxury, they are chasing balance, the kind of balance that Washington increasingly struggles to provide. In the end, Washington remains a state of incredible beauty and opportunity, but beauty alone does not outweigh daily frustrations. When a state's quality of life feels like it is slipping, people vote with their feet. The mystery of why people do not want to live in Washington anymore is not so mysterious after all. It is about protecting time, health, and financial peace of mind. And as long as Washington cannot guarantee those, more and more residents will continue packing their bags for somewhere else.